Good evening and welcome to the Ava Community Energy Community Advisory Board meeting. The time is now 6:03 and I would like to call this advisory committee meeting together for Monday, today, June 15th, 2026. And we are located at Ava Community Energy's headquarters in 1999 Harrison Street, Suite 2300 in Oakland, California, in the boardroom. Members of the public wishing to make a comment can do so by either using the raise hand function online or in Zoom, *9 if you're joining through the telephone. And Adrian, do you mind taking the roll call?
Yes, thank you. Member Beers.
Here.
Thank you. Member Riley.
Here.
Member Edmonds.
Here.
Member Swaminathan.
Yeah.
Member Lakshman. Member DeFranco.
Here.
Member Harper.
Here.
Member Halufia. Member Halufia. Member Not. Member Raj. Member Ray.
Here.
Thank you. Member Roberts. Here. Vice Chair Baksu.
Here.
Chair Susan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And I believe quorum has been established. Is that correct? He already told me quorum has been established. Thank you. At this moment, I'd like to offer up any public comments.
Great. Yes. Thank you. Member, Jim Letts. Recognized for 3 minutes.
Okay, Jim Lutz, a customer of Ava. And I wanted to ask the CAC that the CAC make sure that it's included in the planning for the local development workshop or local development planning process that staff is already undertaking in Ava. It was mentioned at the executive meeting 2 weeks ago and the marketing, regulatory, and legislative meeting last week. And the community advisory committee is the committee that is specifically formed to advise Ava staff on local development issues. So it's important. I want to stress how important it is that Ava get input and feedback and planning advice from the CAC before they get too far along, before staff gets too far along on the planning process for local development. We saw at the CAC earlier this year problems that came up with that could have been potentially mitigated with if the CAC had been involved earlier. And the CAC has good connections with community, and it's important to get community input and buy-in on the local development process, because that's what's going to guide Ava for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's very important to get community input on that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I almost called him Member Jim.
Thank you. Jessica Var.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Jessica Guadalupe Tovar with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. I just want to reiterate and uplift, my organization is a racial justice organization that has been initially advancing a local community choice. And we continue to engage because we do think that it's important for the public to engage on issues of energy. And the whole point of community choice is that it is a model that we can actually weigh in on. And, you know, this whole governance seat of the Community Advisory Committee was part of the vision, as well as the unique aspect of having a chair sit with the rest of the board. And so it's very important for us, for community to have a say in how money's invested, but particularly around investing to create new clean energy jobs, more opportunities for communities who've been shut out of the clean energy economy, and overall, like, improve our communities by reducing pollution and improving the safety of our communities. And when we do that at a local level, that actually positively contributes to challenging the climate issue that we're currently facing. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And I look forward to continue to engage with the new members. So feel free to reach out to me. My email is jessica@localcleanenergy.org. Thank you. Clean power to the people.
Well, thank you, Jessica.
There are no further
Oh,
hands
no.
raised at this time. Oh,
Are there any, is there, hi? Is there anybody online that has any?
there are no hands raised
Again?
in the attendee area or at our remote locations.
Thank you, Adrian. Well, this ends public comment, and I'd like to move on to my report. Oh, for the minutes, we need to, do we need to do the minutes?
We could do either way. We can do minutes
Okay,
first.
why don't we go through the minutes and approve those, or just have a vote on them? Can we do that? Does anybody want to move that forward? Can we have a vote on the minutes?
Oh, I should mention
Yes.
that a small correction was made. I uploaded, there was one member whose name was misspelled.
Okay,
I have uploaded the corrected version of the minutes. It was just a small typo that, but it's the version that is on the public meetings page and in your agenda packets is the corrected version.
very good. Everybody's new and new to me. And I'm still getting the spelling down of my own name, right?
Thank you.
With that said, let's
So
move
so I
forward.
move that we approve the minutes or vote on the minutes.
Anybody want to second that? Moving forward on the minutes, do we have a second?
Yeah. Second.
Thank you, Catherine.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay,
So vote, should I continue to vote?
yes,
Great, thank
let's
you.
move forward with the vote.
Member Pierce,
Yes.
Member Riley,
Yes.
Member Edmonds.
Yeah.
Member Swaminathan,
Yes.
Member Lakshman, Member DeFranco,
Yes.
Member Harper,
Yes.
Member Raj,
Yes.
Member Roberts.
Can you clarify on what we're voting for regarding the minutes?
The approval of the minutes. So if you've read them and wish to approve the minutes
Okay, for today's meeting.
for the last two meetings, they're in the agenda packet.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Buxton
I think I need to abstain since I wasn't at the meeting.
and Chair Souza.
Yes, I was there.
Minutes are
That
approved.
said, yes, the minutes will be looked upon, they are written so that we can take a look at them before the meeting and see that they're is what happened, and they're recorded properly. And so you can take a look at them. I remember, sure.
I'd like to point out that there's in the minutes, there's two sets of minutes. There's the minutes that Adrian takes, which are much more abbreviated. And then there's a second minutes that are more like an AI generated that have not been reviewed. So the second one is very helpful, I think, because it talks about the conversations. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun when we decided whether to go with AI or not for minutes. And I think we disapproved the minutes for one time. It does happen. That said, the minutes have been approved for both two meetings. And I'd like to go now onto my chair report. As you all remember from last meeting, we did a very in-depth study session on roles of the CAC and how to proceed, Rosenberg's Rules of Order, and how not to break the quorum rules by getting together and discussing things outside of a public content text or a structured meeting. So that said, that was our meeting. And then from the board meeting that was 2 days later, Wednesday, this is the information that I recorded. There was a Cal CCA conference, and it was a very significant event attended by many CCAs. I think it was in Sacramento. And there were notable figures, legislative figures. Ava was heavily prominent, had speakers, apparently, I missed it, but I think Jim, our previous member, Jim, was there. And he said that Howard, our CEO, did a very good job. And they demonstrated the benefits of CCAs. We're obviously one of the more notable CCAs, and we're doing very well on our objectives. And we host some of the largest programs in the country here in California. Other people that were there, other staff members were Maria Fontenot, Dan Beraldi, and Dominic Frias. And they some of them were actual speakers there. We also had several of the board members, our representatives, our legislative our public members from the board were there, and they loved it. So that was a very successful event. Howard gave us notice that San Joaquin County has now been put into service, and Ava's covering about 92% of the region, which is, by the way, huge. They're still working on the solar customers, so those are a little bit more complicated, as you know, to get the correct usage correct. Ava has done some very good work, very hopeful work with what's called the PCIA. PCIA has been a thorn in our side. It's called the Power Charge Indifference Adjustment. And what that is PG&E had, of course, before CCAs, had sources for electricity, and whether it was what they call brown power, which is non-renewable coal, natural gas type power, that's brown power. They had made several investments in generation. And so when the CCAs came into being, they no longer had as much use for them, and they created the PCIA to pay for the banked PG&E power resources. And the PCIA was recently, last year, was reevaluated by the CPUC, and extended, and it really hurt Ava's prognosis, its budget, because this was a charge that we absorb, Ava absorbs for the customers. So this is being paid off. It was being paid off, and it was renewed unexpectedly. And Ava has gone, the legislative arm of Ava has gone and said, well, we want to see some numbers. So prove to us that that these resources are worth what you say they are. And so that will be hopefully done sometime in the next year. So you'll hear PCIA, you'll hear other things called like I said, the Brown Power and benchmarks, which is MPB, which is market price benchmarks. So what is the power worth? And we follow PG&E. So we were also hit pretty badly last year because of the fact that PG&E dropped its rates because it was a heavy hydro year. So hydro and electricity was quite cheap. So PG&E said they were going to drop their rates. So our projections were hit very hard by both the lowering of the potential lowering of electric rates, or what we could charge, and the PCIA. So that said, we moved into the changes in budget. We made a lot of decisions around a very underwater budget. So that's the next portion of what the meeting went over. Well, actually, the next portion was the IRP, the Integrated Resource Planning. Another buzzword that you're going to hear, IRP. It focuses on what the CPUC is requiring as far as reliability of Ava's electrical supply. So is it going to supply enough electricity at peak usage, which is usually during the summer? So this is something that not only asks how many resources does Ava have at hand, but also how much, it also looks at the emissions. So they want to make sure that the emissions will not, cross the boundary of creating too much pollution. So emissions are collected, and as well as are we going to be providing enough power? So these things is part of what's called the Integrated Resource Planning. We discussed that last year. The CPUC hands out this crazy Excel sheet, which doesn't quite match what Ava uses. And Ava has worked very hard to model what should be our power mix. And they actually said that we might even be looking at geothermal, because when they modeled it, it was very beneficial. So these are things that Ava does in the magic that happens in the background. So that was something that was discussed, and very interesting to note. Hopefully we hear a little bit more about that. When I first came on, they counted the emission factor at 577 in 2022. And by 2024, which was kind of the last time we actually counted, or the count has been done, it already dropped to 455. So Ava is making a lot of progress in reducing emissions as it provides power. So those are very important facets of what Ava does. As far as the budget update, good news. It wasn't as bad as originally projected, because PG&E's rates did not drop and the market rate stayed high, or the market rate dropped, but PG&E's rates did not drop as badly as we thought it would. And so we actually, in the beginning, had a $150 million shortfall for the year. And right now, they had to use what's called the Gas B fund, which is a fund. It's not a reserve fund, but it's a fund that they kind of work it to that it's accounting, but it's not exactly a reserve fund. But they're using this great fund for us as a gas fund to normalize our budget. And with that, the drop in price from PG or the market outlook has brought our budget down deficit to pretty neutral. So that was an amazing number. Great to hear. But we had made some decisions about what we could do this next year, which includes a $10 million reversal for community funds. And there were some things with the Cara Farah payback, and there were just some things that we wished we could still have on our forecast, but we took them back. So there may be some room to bring some of that back. That's kind of what we as a community advisory committee would be hoping to see is that maybe some of this money can now be freed up for community interest. So just to tie this up, there's 330 million in total reserves, not including the GASB funds. And there's 162.5 million in the rate stabilization fund, which we didn't have to touch. There's about 83 million that has been allocated for community funds that include the resiliency hubs, the bike, there's an ABA bike program, electrification. And so there were a number of projects that ABA is still working, and that was quite a chunk of money, which has already been allocated so far, 12 projects. So that said, lastly, the city of San Leandro requested a transition toward a default of Bright Choice versus a default of Renewable 100, which means any customer that comes on will go to Bright Choice first. Some communities like Fremont chose to have the default to be Renewable 100 first, and then a customer can make that change. So I'm sorry I took so long, but I want to use buzzwords to get you guys on as quickly as possible to hear and see what we talk about. And that said, that ends my report. Are there any questions?
So just a question on the GASB funds. Is that like, that's an accounting mechanism to defer revenue recognition? Or what is that?
I am not entirely sure.
Chair Souza, if I may, I would recommend, because the budget is agendized for today, and my colleague is ready to present on that on the next item. So we might want to hold off on that for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. One last thing, I'm going to back up a little bit. And I mentioned that our job is to be a voice for the community, also to try and hook up with your respective board member there, and Catherine and Emma and Andrew have Albany, Berkeley, Oakland, Emeryville, and Piedmont. There are lists of, and you too. And there are lists of who are the board members. So if you guys can do a little bit of homework and start looking into how to contact them and make yourself known, that would be great. Lastly, I want to speak a little bit about ad hocs. Last year, we did 2 ad hocs. One was the LDBP, which is a local business development plan ad hoc, and the energy affordability. What we found was that they were too broad. We'd like to focus on, say, energy affordability as far as energy efficiency, or energy affordability as far as programs to help people, that sort of thing. And so if you would like to bring that forward, perhaps towards the end of the meeting, we can discuss that in for future meetings. So think about it. Think about what would be a good ad hoc, so that if you wanted to know what Adrian knows exactly how to describe an ad hoc. But you know, if there's something that you have in your back pocket that, you know, you say EV charging in schools or something along those lines, bring that forward and we can form an ad hoc committee for that. Adrian, do you want to say anything about that?
Sure, sure. Just to explain, just to remind what an ad hoc is. An ad hoc is a meeting of less than a quorum of the membership to discuss a specific question, and it meets for a limited amount of time, just for the duration of the question. And so if it provides a space for CAC members to be able to take a deep dive into the topics that you're interested in, but it, like I said, it doesn't, it has an end date, and it's meant for members to be able to research, like I said, answer questions, pursue interests, and it would be organized through the chair. We'd want to take understand who the membership of that committee is, just to make sure that we are staying under quorum.
Thank you, Adrian. So yes, ad hocs are wonderful ways to delve deep and to bring back a product that we can bring to AVA staff and the board for consideration.
Oh, I just one last thing about that.
Yes.
Ad hoc meetings are not public meetings. So the clerk is not involved. There's no minutes. They're not recorded. They're just opportunities for members to be able to meet and discuss outside of the context of a properly, of a properly noticed meeting.
Thank you, Adrian. Well, with that, we'll move on. There's no further questions or comments. We'll move on to, thank you, to our next item, which is C5, which is
Chair
2020.
Souza,
Yes,
apologies, but I think we have to do public comment real quick before we move on.
we have to what?
Public comment.
Is there public comment? Is there anybody? No.
There are no hands raised at this time. There's no hands raised in the attendee area.
So that said, we will be moving on to item C5 at the annual budget, which is as of Wednesday, supposed to be a board action item. They will be voting on this. So if we can help them make good decisions, that's what we're here for. And here's.
Hello, I'm Jason Bartlett, the Senior Finance Manager, and Member Souza, thank you for the very thorough introduction on a lot of the concepts we're going to be going over. So that was, hopefully helpful for the room to understand more about what this budget is going to contain. So without further ado, Adrian, if you could please go to the next slide. So every year we present a budget to the board of directors for approval for the following fiscal year. This budget has gone through rounds of review with the executive committee, the finance, administrative, and procurement committee, as well as it has been presented as a draft version to the board in May. The budget covers, overall categories of the general operating fund, including revenues from operations, energy operations, services to facilitate energy operations, overhead, and some non-operating activity. Next slide, please, Adrian. So this is the current fiscal year. So to kind of give some context going into before we start talking about the next fiscal year. And we can see that there have, and as Member Souza has pointed out, there has been some decisions made by the board to help lift us out of what was projected to be a pretty massive deficit. But we are seeing here, we're going to end the year probably around 80 million or so net revenues. Next slide, please. Actually, 2 slides up. So that brings us to the current budget. So this is the draft proposed for approval. And this is the condensed version. There is an extended version at the end of the presentation if you want to see more details. But it is condensed here to kind of touch on some of the points. One being that revenues, energy prices continue to soften and or remain at lower states. And the CPU's Track 1 PCIA proceedings have been in place, and they were to true up for 2025 RA contracts. This does not have any additional PCIA activity, as there is nothing that is up for vote that we're aware of at this time. That could change, but it is not expected for this next fiscal year. Overhead is, a lot of the G&A and is predominantly driven by what our staffing needs, and what the staff needs in order to continue to provide service. And then non-operating activity, we'll dig a little bit more into that, but essentially it's basically it's interest earned on what we hold in the treasury, as well as some incremental expenses. If we could please go to the next slide. So it should be noted that there's a lot of uncertainty with these budgets, right? We do our best to provide the best, projections and estimates that we can based on all the available information that is in the world for us to draft these budgets. And so there is a lot of uncertainty that can still unfold throughout the year, and particularly, there can be, so on May 15th was one of those moments of change. Previously, as Member Souza explained, we were expecting this year to project a $150 million shortfall, but the PG&E ERA filing came out with new information, and that updated everything and kind of brought us into a better position as to where you can see we're very near break even. There are also, risks with PCIA. As I said, we're not expecting any changes this year, but, tracks 2 and 3 are in scoping, as they say. They haven't been fully scoped yet, but they are expected to come at some point, and that timeline is uncertain. There's also, energy load variability. There can be, we do our best to kind of model as we can, but we can't necessarily predict the weather, and weather is one of the primary drivers of load usage. And so there is some forecast uncertainty there. There's also new power generation projects that may or may not come online, depending on a number of factors around permitting or even market prices can kind of drive some of that activity. And then, of course, there's the macroeconomic environment and, the world in which we live that can affect energy prices in a number of different ways that we've seen over the last couple of years. Next slide, please. So to talk a little bit more about the May ERA addendums. So there's when the filing is made public, it comes with over 100 different data sets that are called the working papers. And these hold a numerous amount of data that needs to be parsed through and examined and then worked into our models. This came out on May 15th. We have incorporated as much as we can. There are some changes, some questions that we have that are outstanding that we have posed to PG&E and to our consultants who who have more knowledge and more access to some of the more sensitive information that we do not have. But we have processed it a lot, and it all is kind of composed and installed in these numbers. Now, that said, there are some things that we know. The 2025 RA PCIA reform is in place and is considered to be at a steady state for 2027. That means that this turbulent year that we're going through in calendar year 26 is the rebalancing of that 2025 PCIA reform, and we expect it to settle this year and 2027 going forward. That track one reform should be consistent and steady. Now, some things that we don't know is, so there's the market price benchmarks, and this is something that will not be determined until October of this year. It's every year in October, they will publish what the average market prices are for PG&Es and other load serving entities. And then that becomes the base for which rates are set by the CPUC for PG&E. And then, of course, we provide our discount relative to those rates. So the MPBs are still, they have not changed since October of last year, and we will not expect to receive new ones until October of this year. But we have done our best to make estimates of what we think they are likely to. Can you go to the next slide, please? So this slide shows, we added this slide. This is a new slide this year, and this is to kind of show the volatility of how energy prices can move from week to week. Or in this case, let's see. I believe that these are so these are monthly prices. So we take, basically we have a model that estimates what we think the forward prices are going to be. And you can see each one of those lines is a snapshot of what our model was saying at a different time. And this is over 6 months. We've taken one snapshot for each month and have compiled them all here. The black line is where we are now. But as you can see, we've had higher prices and lower prices projected from our model for this particular time period here shown, which is the next fiscal year. As you see, it goes from June 26th through June or July 26th through June 27. And so we do see some movement in these prices up or down, and that's why we have different estimates almost each time we present, because the market is living and changes regularly. And so this slide serves to kind of illustrate the purpose of the volatility that we see. Next slide, please. So this next slide discusses historical generation rates and the PCIA. It shows two graphs here. The graph on the left is the calendar year of which this is, so rates are made on calendar year basis by the CPUC and the independent utilities. And we can see that, so the on that left graph, the line furthest to the right is what we're projecting for calendar year 2027 for rates. And as you can see, it's about on par with the current year, 2026. But you notice the pink or the purple part's a little bit smaller. So that is the PCIA. The purple part is the PCIA. The total is the rate that ratepayers pay. Purple part's the PCIA. And then that orange line at the bottom is our margin. And as you can see, we're we're in a drawdown period this calendar year. We lose about 1.1 cents per kilowatt hour. And we have I think it's like 8 terawatt hours. So, we're drawing down this year a few hundred million. Next year, 2027, we're expecting it to be about a break-even rate on our margin. So with that PCIA kind of going, like with that amount going down, the rate goes, and the rate staying flat, our margin gets a little better. Now that's the calendar year. The one on the right is the same exact scenario, but for the fiscal year. And you can see that, in fact, for the fiscal year, rates are averaging down. And this is an average of the two rates for 26 and 27, as you can see. And so, but again, it is showing the same dynamics or elements with the PCIA is actually expanding for the fiscal year, even though it's contracting for the calendar year. So that's really a kind of informational slide to give you perspective on how our rates and the PCIA work together. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the revenues. So going back to the budget that was shown earlier, this is we're expanding those line items, and these are the revenues line items. So this is so what we're seeing is that we are kind of projecting. So there are 3 columns here. The first column on the far left is the budget, the current budget. The middle column or second column from the left is the actuals for the current fiscal year. And these are through April. So we don't have May or June yet in those actual numbers, but we do have what we think May or June are how they're going to shape out. And then the third column is the budget. And then those 2 kind of small columns to the side are the difference between the budgets in dollar amounts and then in percentages. And as you see, we are expecting a less revenues from the next fiscal year than we were budgeting for last fiscal year. And with Ava's generation rate, as you saw, is declining from last fiscal year, and that decline is about 11%. So good news for the ratepayers. This is that our rates will be 11% cheaper, less expensive for them next year, for this next fiscal year. And we do have, someone has mentioned GASB 62. We do have those monies that we're going to use to help keep those rates stable. And to answer the question earlier, the GASB 62 has multiple purposes, but it is deferred revenue. We bucket it into board-approved buckets, but the large buckets is the largest one is the rate stabilization fund. And that we will touch on that on a later slide. And that is also presented in that third column as that 24 million. We will be drawing on that to stabilize the rates and to keep the budget neutral. Next slide, please. Okay, so this next slide kind of gives an overview of the next few slides. These are our cost items. We have energy operations is about 94% of our total expenses. And then we have overhead operations, which is how we make the magic happen, so to speak. And then there's non-operating expenses, and those will also be discussed in more details in the further slides. But this is a summary of what's to come. Next slide, please. So these are energy operations, and as you see, we are projecting about a 7% lower cost. 7.4% lower cost this year from last year, and still, but with higher load. So, and this is because we are seeing a very large decline in prices from over the last couple years. And so energy prices have gotten softer. We think they've kind of hit a floor. So this is still we believe this might be a low estimate, but it is currently our best estimate. Energy services related to the delivery of energy include, data management and customer billing, as well as metering, and we have to schedule with the Cal ISO our load so that they can keep the lines balanced, so they know what we're getting. So that does require some service costs. That graph at the bottom is historically, so we have them in the little buckets. We've got, on the far left is our PPAs. These are our long-term purchase agreements for renewable sources. Then in the middle are like our hedges. These are how we buy in advance, so that we are properly risk managing our exposure. The open position is, of course, what isn't hedged or covered by our long-term contracts. Then we have, resource adequacy, which is a required amount that we have to provide as additional capacity for fluctuations in demand. And then renewable energy, carbon-free energy, and then we've got some transaction costs and some other minor incidentals. But this kind of shows the shape of how each year is a little bit different, and where where our expenses are kind of giving us our best opportunities. Now you see the RECs have gone up, and that's important. We are buying more renewable energy, as been pointed out, and per our board directives, but also prices have gone up. So that's kind of a confluence of what's driving some of these spikes in here. Next slide, please. So this is now we're getting into, we've done energy operations, now we're getting into overhead. And so the first line in the overhead is personnel. This has our expected personnel costs for the next fiscal year. We are adding, it looks like it's 5 additional FTE this year. We had 7 approved last year, but 2 have we're not hiring on those. Those roles have been diverted. But we are anticipating 5 new hires for this next fiscal year. Next slide, please. So another line item in overhead is marketing and communications. Now this combines marketing and communications as well as account services together. And so in here, there's advertising, promotions, sponsorships, and we do hire some communications consultants in order to keep the message of AVA out there and alive. Next slide, please. It was mentioned earlier about our legislative and policy team, so that falls under here along with our legal resources. We do keep legal consultants on retainer for various purposes, and we do, of course, we are very active in making sure that CCAs have a voice in policy at the state level and sometimes at the national level. And so we do budget for that, and there is, and that is what's represented here. Next item. Professional services. So these are, we have a very talented and capable staff, but we can't do it all. And so we do need to hire professional services to assist with the work, instead of providing full staffs. And so these are the buckets in which we are hiring professional services to assist with various goals and objectives within our organization. Now, I will note that there is an additional item added this year from here that wasn't in last year's. And this has moved from this. So other services is actually temporary hires. That was last year was in the personnel services, and this year we moved it out as a specific professional service instead of having it be a part of personnel. So that's what that is. Next slide, please. So we've finished energy operations and overhead. So this slide goes over and expands more on non-operating activity. The interest income reflects the Fed interest policy that's currently expected to be quote unquote higher for longer. That has been their policy for about the last year. And given the certain economic situations that have been unfolding over the last few months, it will probably, we are anticipating no changes to rates over the next, at least through 26, but we are estimating it through at least the fiscal year. And so we do have our reserve funds and some other monies that are held in interest-bearing accounts, and that's where this interest income is coming from. Next slide, please. So now, okay, this was a little out of order, forgive me. This is the G&A aspect of the overhead. And we've done our best to try to break it out into what we believe to be, responsible reporting buckets. Now, one thing to note is that operational expenses are going up. Now, there has been an accounting treatment change. Previously, so about 1.7 million is for interest that we pay out to hold our credit facility. And our credit facility is very important because we need to post collateral with counterparties. And we do that in the forms of letters of credit. We don't post cash. Generally, we give them a letter of credit that reflects against our credit facility. And issuing those letters of credit does come at an interest rate. And that was previously, in last year's budget, previously held and contained within non-operating expenses. But there has been accounting treatment changes under GAAP that require us to now reflect them as operating expenses. So that's the large increase that you see in that top line item there. Next item, please. So this is where we have a couple slides here that do reflect on our local development plans. We have a fund balance, so we keep the local development fund separate from the general fund. Up to this point, we've been discussing primarily the general fund, but the local development fund has its own balance. There's about $83.6 million that is in that fund now from previous allocations from previous budgets. And then a substantial amount of that has been earmarked or allocated for specific program areas. And these are allocated spends that are currently is the current plan. And if JP is in the room, I will let him speak more to this slide and the next slide if he is willing.
Thanks, Jason. Good evening, JP Ross, Vice President of Local Development. So this slide speaks to the funding that we currently have within the local development budget, that 83 million. Of that, about 69 million is earmarked to specific programs and work streams. So I think, Jason, you pretty much covered it. That's about 73% of the funding that has been earmarked.
Yeah, there is one more slide. If we go to the next slide, Adrian.
So this slide speaks to what we expect to spend down out of that 83 million in FY 27 in the next fiscal year. And then the commitments that are made in FY 27 and the spend into future years. So an example of that, if we go to the top, AvaCharge, we are expecting to put new sites online in AvaCharge, which is our fast charging program. And the projects that we expect to put online in the coming fiscal year would commit us to an additional $6.7 million in spend over the 10-year term of the sites that we expect to put online. As an example, another example, smart home battery, we are not expecting to spend down the full allocation of funds in smart home battery in FY 27, but the commitments that we would expect to make in FY 27 would commit us to a longer term expense of close to $11 million, because the program commits us to 5 years of ongoing payments for participants in smart home battery as just a couple examples of what the FY 27 spend column means plus committed. There are other work streams that are ongoing that we have previously committed to, which commits, funds out into the future. But this slide indicates new work streams and new programs and new commitments that we plan to make next fiscal year, and the ongoing financial commitments over the subsequent years.
Thank you, JP. I do see a hand raised. I'm not sure of the protocols in this situation. It is a committee member that it has their hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason, if you wanted to take that question.
Yes,
Sure.
it's a question for JP. So the committed funds is 88, the available funds is 88 million, of which here we see about $40 million either spent or committed. And about $40 million is not committed and not
So if we go,
spent.
if we go to the previous slide, of the 83,600,000 that we have in the balance, about 70 million of that is earmarked. So earmarked is something that we have a plan for. If we go to the subsequent slide, this is saying of those earmarked funds in FY 27, we'll plan to spend 12 million of that, and that 12 million commitment will obligate us to spend 30 million, 29 million over subsequent years. So this is one part of that 69 million in earmarked funds is the way to think about it.
Got it. And so $10 million is released from the $83 million we currently hold this year.
That's right. Yeah. 11 million, 12 million will be spent out of the 83 million in the local development fund.
Okay. And the $10 million released from the previous slide, would that be treated as other income, Jason?
The 10 million released.
The 14 million released, the difference between 83 and 69.
So that is reflective of funds that we do not have currently earmarked. So there is some additional funding that's not earmarked that has yet to be defined what we're going to spend it on. So that the 14 million that you're referring to.
14 million is the difference between 83 and 69. Is that being released from the balance? Or
no, it's still in the balance. It's still yet to be determined how we spend it.
Got it.
And think of that as what's going to come forth, as we go through our road mapping process. Those are funds that we would then, bring up for proposed allocation in the roadmap, because these are the things that we currently have earmarked, where we have, programs of work that are planned to spend. I'd say the one amendment to that is, within building electrification, that 8.5 million earmark, that was reflective of expectations for our Healthy Communities program. So that funding would then go back into kind of planning for other building electrification activities.
Okay, thank you. And there's no funding for this year from the budget itself, correct? So these are all carried forward amounts.
These are all carried forward amounts because there's no new funding in the proposed FY27 budget for local development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Shiva, and thank you, JP. We have another question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rachel, would you?
Yeah, so similar line of thought that she was asking. So we've got, 12 million in the LDPP that's going to be spent in this next year and committing another 29 million beyond that. So then there's about 40 million that's remaining earmarked. And you talked about a couple of these on slide 20 in terms of timelines, like a 5-year program and 10-year program. I'm just curious, for everything else that's earmarked, is there a summary of the timelines for the different programs and funding that you have planned moving forward so that we can get a sense of like how long will the money that's in the fund be stretching out, considering that, this budget is not proposing to add more funding to LDPP right now. So we can get a sense of kind of, okay, this is going to take us through the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years.
Yeah, we don't have that right now. I mean, some of these are based on the level of enrollment, for example. So smart home charging, which is the bottom slide where we expect to, allocate about $300,000 next year. We have $2 million allocated to smart home charging, but we haven't been enrolling as fast as we'd like. And we're evaluating how we might pivot and partner with different entities to speed enrollments into that program. Smart home battery, similarly, this is based on forecasts, how much of the market we expect to capture with our smart home battery program of current sales, and current sales are quite volatile. So, a lot of these programs that are based on enrollment are a little bit hard to predict as far as the level of spend because it's based on the level of commitment from customers. So I think, I don't have a full forecast of the expected date of every single one of these budget
Right.
allocations.
Okay, and then a follow-up question. So, a lot of these are going to increase electricity consumption, so they're potentially revenue generating activities. Is there a projection in terms of, what the goal of participation in these different activities might look like, and then how much revenue you're expecting to generate over different timelines that could come back into AVA as a result?
So we do not reinvest electricity generation revenue from electrification programs specifically back into the local development fund. That actually cuts both ways. So enrollments in smart home battery actually net costs us $250 a year per customer in lost electricity sales. So nor do we take those dollars out of the local development fund when a program has a net negative revenue implication. So it cuts both ways, but we are looking at doing both electrification bill impacts electrification impacts assessments for electricity changes and gas changes, as well as bill impacts across all of the programs that we have put into place as a work stream that we're working to kick off this year, so that we can calculate from the electrification programs that we do have ongoing, what are the impacts there, both bill savings, because sometimes bill savings are negative,
Right.
and we want to know for which customers and how can we potentially avoid those impacts. But some things like the 9-6, the Bay Area Air District rule, that would be carte blanche, and whether it costs people's electricity bills to increase or decrease, the rule doesn't really
Okay.
care about
I
that.
was-
So yeah.
So that was just something I guess I would note, like it would be valuable to see, maybe for the next budget cycle, have there been revenues resulting from these programs that have helped increase the overall, funding available that could then go back into programs in the future. It would be a budgetary decision. It's not automatic, but yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, as an example, yeah, anyway, we can certainly do that. Happy to to go through that. If we look at either our revenue or margin numbers, revenue for a heat pump water heater at $10 a megawatt hour, it's $40 a year in revenue. It might be $10 a year in margin, or sorry, $4 a year in margin. So that's an example of something that might increase your household energy consumption by half. It's not huge numbers of revenue, but in aggregate, those are things that we want to be supporting.
Thank you, JP. And Indira has a question.
This may just be an accounting thing, but looking on page 17, and it says
Excuse me, before we go, there are a couple more slides left in this presentation.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mind taking questions for local
Sure.
development, but if I could finish it, maybe some of those questions could be answered, and then I will gladly answer any question after that. if
Thank you.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
we'll reserve Indira's question for later. Could you please continue, Jason? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Adrian, could you please go to slide 21? Great. So, so this is a slide that has the statements of our deferred revenues and reserve funds. Our reserve fund is a cash holding of which there is has been allocated by previous surpluses, previous year's surpluses, and the balance is currently at 330.8-ish million. Now we have a target on that is a board approved target that it should reach 50% of our next year's operating expenses but there is a range between 25 and 75 that's acceptable. As of this budget, that balance amount is about 39%, 39.2% of our expected next year's operating expenses. Below that table is a kind of long, the middle table. That has our current rate stabilization fund balance, and these are GASB 62 monies. So this is revenue that has been deferred rather than net revenues recognized. So this is revenues that have been deferred, and we're going to be using this to stabilize the budget. About 18 million of these will be used to help keep rates stable and also keep our budget net zero. Now there are two line items there. There's the rate stabilization fund of 162 million, and then there's the clean energy investments. In 2024, the board approved that 10.5 million of the net revenues from the 23-24 fiscal year be allocated to recognition in calendar year 2027 for clean energy investments. We will be recognizing, or this budget assumes the recognition of half of that amount for the first half of calendar year 27, which this budget covers. And then that bottom table there is the balance of these two funds, or these two deferred revenue usages at the end of the fiscal year if it goes as planned. And also another point to mention is that at the end of this current fiscal year, the first slide that we looked at, if you recall, or one of the first slides, was projecting 80 million net revenues. Staff will be bringing a recommendation to the board after the completion of the audit in November to discuss what to do with that net revenues. So there will be some plans proposed on what to do with that net position. Next slide, please. So this is a new slide that we've added for this year also, which is the long-term 5-year forecast projection. Again, this is not so much to be deemed as accurate numbers as it is to be directional. We do have with the recognition of some of the rate stabilization fund monies, we do get the net revenues for this proposed fiscal year to be flat, not negative. And then we do see some, if If everything continues as planned and as expected, then we will see some modest year-over-year income net revenue return. Now, some assumptions here is that there's no material changes to PCIA methodologies. There's no change to the market, the current value proposition. The market performs as expected, and costs of energies to increase it. This at our historically measured growth rate. So, and all of this is to say that that's probably not all likely to happen, but based upon our current kind of the way in which the wind is blowing, it is positive and favorable. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, we are going to be seeking the approval of this presented budget from the board with the expectation of utilizing about 19 million from the rate stabilization fund to offset the forecasted deficit. Actuals will change relative to budget scenarios based on energy market conditions and other other uncertainties that we've discussed through this presentation as well. We also will provide a mid-year evaluation as well as proposals for what to do with any net position generated from this current fiscal year. So this is the conclusion of the presentation. We do request for the CAC to ask any clarifying questions at this time and consider making the recommendation to the board to provide your concerns. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. It's very detailed and informative presentation. Some of it went over my head, but that's not unusual. That said, I want to bring back Indira for her question. So if you could go ahead, Indira.
Jason, it may just be on page 17 where the local business development is showing 0. Is it a possible, because we are a joint powers agency and because we are thinking about community support, rather than saying 0, can we put in what we are estimating to be carried out in the following tables, that differential of, what was it, 20,000 or whatever it was? Seems like that putting that in as fiscal year 2027 would, it supports Ava's work that it's actually doing, rather than when you see this 0, it makes you go, wait a second, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's because the accounting budget that's the way it's done, or if you could put in there, see that we have allocated it forward because of budget constraints right now, but we are still committed to doing local business development.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And you are right in that it is the, accounting treatment that presents it this way. One way, the best way that I think about it, and I think a good way to explain it is that what we've been discussing here is what to do with general fund purpose money, not necessarily local development purpose money. And if we put a number there, then that means the board is allocating revenues from the fiscal year to the local development fund. So that fund balance of 84 million would increase. So we have the 0 there to show that there's no increase in that fund balance. And also it's not negative, so we're not taking money out of the fund balance back into the general fund. So it's kind of like, they're two different buckets. And that is why we did put in shortly after this slide. It should have been right after this slide, but I put the slide 18 in the wrong spot. But that's why we do immediately address the presentation of what we are spending for local development to show that 0 is not a full bupkis. It's just that it's not an additional contribution this year.
I understand. Is it possible to expand this Excel spreadsheet over and put 2 more columns? And just say that differential,
Mhm.
just so that, because I mean,
Sure.
if you're the public and you're reading this, I think it's
Mhm.
disturbing to say we aren't committing to doing anything in 2027 for local business development when we actually are. So we're kind
Right.
of, yeah.
Yeah, I do get your point. So we do when we now that this is a good point, and this is something that we can consider, is that when we present budget to actuals, we do present the two different funds kind of side by side. We see budget for actuals for the general fund, and then we see what has been spent from local development. And so it could be a different slide, but it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate to put it in the same kind of in the same realm, I guess, realm of the general fund. It would have to be a local development fund separate slide because it's kind of its own separate entity.
So Jason, perhaps.
But with that, sorry,
Perhaps
go ahead.
Perhaps an asterisk next to the zero and explain it below that the actual expenditure asterisk may help.
Yeah, I was also going to suggest, I mean, maybe even just rewording. So it says contribution to the local development fund instead of local development funding, because the funding sounds like an action. There's funding there, right? And so
Okay.
just, from the outsider perspective, the way that it's worded may help.
Understood.
Yes.
Go
Well,
ahead, please.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, yes, those are very good points. I will bring them up with the leadership team for
Great.
sure.
The leadership team or the board? I'm sorry.
Well, I'll bring it to the leadership team, and they can bring it to the board.
Okay, that's in 2 days.
Yeah, I would probably not expect a change on this budget, but for mid-year, for sure, or any future reporting, it could possibly be integrated then. We've already posted this presentation for this board due to the rules of the Brown Act. So
Yeah, I understand. It's just we have public comments that are talking about this. And so that's why I just wanted to elevate it
Sure.
to you because don't want to
Yeah.
let them down. And we are the Community Advisory Committee.
Yeah, and I will. I agree. Yeah, totally. And I will be sure to bring it to leadership to make sure that they emphasize this at the board meeting.
Do appreciate that, Jason.
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out. It's good to hear how it sounds. I'm in my own little kind of sound chamber sometimes. So
You're doing good, Jason. Keep it up.
thanks.
Wonderful. That said, I'd like to get some advice from Adrian on how to actually make
There
that.
is sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I
Maybe you
didn't
have
mean
an
to interrupt.
idea.
There is another question. I didn't know if we were moving on, but I did not mean to interrupt.
3 questions. Okay, all right. Before we go into my question, we'll go for Shiva. Can you please ask?
On slide 12, can bring up slide 12 and there is no x-axis on slide 12. Next time around, could we have the x-axis shown?
Yeah, so we
the
did not.
y-axis, sorry, the y-axis.
Yeah, we did not put an axis there on purpose because of the price. There is a lot of confidential sensitivity around prices, and that could be information by which someone could deconstruct and understand our contract prices.
Okay, all right. So from here, what I judge is the open positions is about 40% of total positions. Is that correct? So PPA plus hedges are the hedged prices, and then open is exposed to the market, correct?
Correct, yes.
Would this situation, is this by design that 40% is kept open so that it fluctuates with PCIA? Is that a strategy or?
Yes, good question. There are actually a number of strategies at work here. I'll be brief and I'll hit upon the two big ones. One is exactly as you said, it is sometimes wise to leave some exposure depending upon the directional change of PCIA, because that can, create a kind of natural recovery hedge. It does take longer time, somewhere between, we estimate on average about 18 months for that hedge to work, given the regulatory and speed. But then also, depending upon as we get closer to delivery time, we do fill more hedges. So our policy kind of ramps up as we get closer to a month. So considering that some of what you're seeing here is in, next calendar year, 27, we're not fully hedged yet for those months.
Could you tell us what is the total dollars involved in this?
The total dollars are shown right there on the line item that says cost of energy. And again, because this is very sensitive information, we can't necessarily show the specific prices of the different attributes.
Okay, all right. Good. I have a question on slide 14. What is my question?
That's a great question.
Oh, yes, the customer mailing for Fremont Commercial Renewable 100. So did the commercial customers in Fremont switch to Renewable 100? Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
When the city opt-ups, we are required to distribute some mailings to all the customers.
But the residential customers were switched to Renewable 100 a couple of years ago, right? Commercial customers only this year?
I'll help you out, Jason. Hi, this is
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, the Fremont residential customers switched from Bright Choice to Renewable 100 as their default in August of 2025.
And commercial
So
customers.
you would have seen a similar adjustment to the marketing budget for the residential customers. However, there are obviously a lot more residential customers than commercial in Fremont.
So the commercial customers switched 2 years later. Is that it?
1 year later.
1 year later. Got it.
So that was 2025. Yeah.
Got it. And I have a question on slide 21, please. That's my last question. Yeah, so the balance of the $330 million. And then I saw somewhere the interest of $24 million. Is the $24 million interest based on the $330 million balance, or is the balance greater than that?
It's a balance greater than the 330, but the 330 is generating, I would say, about half of that interest.
What is the other half?
Well, the other half, you see, we have $162 million from the rate stabilization fund. That is held as restricted, as well as there's another $25 million in GASB money. And then then there is working capital that does sit in some small interest like they earn small interest rates, but there is some there.
Got it. So the biggest funds so what is this $330 million fund? What is it called?
This is our reserve balance, our reserve fund.
And that's different from rate stabilization fund?
Correct. Yes. They were authorized by 2 different board approvals. One is basically so the reserves are recognized money, meaning they come out of the net revenues for a fiscal year and they're allocated to the reserve fund. The rate stabilization fund is deferred, meaning it's not recognized, meaning it's revenues. It's money that we've gotten, but we haven't recognized it on the income statement.
Got it. And then you have the $80 million for the local development fund. That's another balance.
Well, that's held as recognized revenue. So that is money that that has been recognized in on our income statements and is also sitting in an account generating interest. Yes.
Okay. So if I compute the $24 million to be 3% of the underlying assets,
Yeah.
it's about $800 million in total cash assets. Is that kind of what the ballpark?
I believe you should probably be seeing somewhere around 690 or 7.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Jason, one other question on this slide while we're here.
Sure.
Uh,
Well,
Okay.
one more question on this slide. Let's do it.
Any other questions on this slide? Okay, can we go to Catherine?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. More generally, can you share more about what the written policy framework is for surplus allocation? So just looking at the different fiscal years, there's been a really wildly varying amount of surplus allocation to local development from 7 to 0 to 40%. And this year's allocation is deferred to November. So if there's a written policy, then I'd like to know more about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, typically we do not make recommendations on net revenues until after the audit. Sometimes at time of budget approval, there will be what's called a waterfall that it'll be a plan of what we intend to do if we're projecting net revenues. We're like, okay, we expect with these net revenues that we're projecting, this is what our current plan is to do with them. Now that can change by board resolution before it gets to November, but it's in November after the audit that we do finalize net revenue allocation. And that has been pretty consistent. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, got it.
Great.
And then on the restabilization fund, so it sounds like the target is 50% for the policy target for the fund, but it's been mostly around 40% lately. So if 40% is the floor, we never really go above it. What's the ceiling above which reserve should go back to ratepayers and programs? So I want to know more about that number you have the target.
Yeah, good question. So the target is 50%. The board approved range in which it can sit is in between 25 and 75%. So there is a ceiling and there is a floor. I believe that, and these numbers were determined by an extensive survey of other CCAs and other industry practices. But they can be amended and changed at any time the board wishes. Their last year, there was a discussion on this. There were no recommended or I guess sought after changes other than to because we did see there was some writing on the wall of the forthcoming real crunch that we were going to see with 2026 and this drawdown. We're drawing down like 250 million this calendar year. There was real action taken to develop the rate stabilization fund and to defer money there to stabilize the budget and stabilize customer rates. So no money has been being deferred to the reserve fund in order to prepare for this year's drawdown in the last couple of years. Does that help?
Yeah. I have
Okay.
more questions, but I'll come back later.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Rachel,
Yeah, so on slide 22, when we're looking at the 5-year forecast, so the year over year revenues that are shown, obviously you said there's a lot of assumptions built in, but is the assumption also that the expenditures would follow the approved budget for what's being proposed right now? So these are revenues, or I guess revenues projected without contributions to the LDBP or contributions to the rate stabilization fund?
Correct.
Okay. So that's just reserves and then, or revenues, and then there would still be some, if these forecasts are anywhere near what we actually see, then there would be discussion regarding should that all be reserves or should there be some contributions to other funds?
Correct, yes. That's the exact read.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great. Davis, can you hang on just for a second? I'm going to ask Thomas to ask his question.
Of
course.
On slide 7, there's a reference to PG&E revenue requirements model. And then on slide 8, there's a reference to a price forecast model. You have some curves in there. I don't know if that's AVA's or PG&E's forecast. But I was wondering if both of these models took into account what's being called a historic El Nino year this year. So temperatures are going to be much higher than, statistical averages, and hydro resources are likely to be much larger than average. You know if there was any adjustments for that, Jason?
That's super interesting. I wish I could answer that. I don't know. I do know that, prices are weather driven. So you're spot on if we can see, as I think I stated earlier, is that we believe we're kind of near the floor of how low prices can go. So yeah, I mean, anything can, something as dramatic as El Nino can really add a lot of volatility here.
It's an uncertainty. I agree with that. And then on slide 9, so I'm trying to unpack the PCIA charges here. And I think one element of it is what I'm inferring here is that PG&E signed long-term power purchase agreements for Brown Power, and they're having to cancel them because of loss of load to Ava Energy. And then Ava Energy has to pay the cancellation fees. Is that one of the components?
So cancellation, I'm not sure is the right term there, but it definitely is, they would sell them if it turns out that it's unnecessary, but they would sell them at the market rate, right? So it's not necessarily a cancellation, it's a resale. And if they bought it at a higher rate or at a higher price and they have to sell them at a lower price, then yes, then the departed customer is responsible for, according to the CPUC, the departed customer is responsible for that payment.
Okay. And then the third thing, on slide 13, there was an AIP compensation adjustment of 12%. It seemed kind of, that thing. What is an AIP?
Yeah, that's the annual incentive performance. So it's a small amount of what's in the salary and wages, but we are increasing that by 12% for top performers within the organization.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. I think we have Davis next.
Thank you. Quick question in the local development budget. I saw there's a line item for grants that was at 600,000. And I remembered I joined a community workshop in January that was collecting feedback on AVA's strategic grant making priorities. Hadn't heard back about any guidelines being developed, and so I was just curious if you could elaborate a little bit on those numbers for the anticipated spend.
Yeah, that is on expectation of issuing grant solicitation and selecting new grantees in FY27. And that would be based on the community feedback from the forum and the workshop that we completed that you participated in.
Okay, but so there aren't any guidelines out yet reflecting that feedback, correct? Or are those?
That's correct. Yeah,
available?
yeah, that's right. We need to compile that and then would be putting that forward in a solicitation.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Okay. Blake, did you have a question, Blake? Sorry.
Catherine asked my question, so good. Thank you.
I've got a whole bucket of them.
You guys are on the same
Yeah.
wavelength there. Excellent. I have some questions about the way the rates are realized. There's the MPB, which is the market price benchmark, and that's based on the Brown Power. And since California's now at around 50% renewables now, or somewhere around there, are they thinking of changing the way that they do the market rate? Is there going to be any possibility of looking at renewables as part of that?
Well, yeah, so there are three components that they currently look at. One is the Brown Power charge, one is renewable energy, and the other is resource adequacy. So they do, already factor that in. And in fact, the a large part of the drawdown that we've experienced, or some of the drag, that we've experienced, has been because renewable market price benchmark has been like north of $70, which is, 3 times the average.
Oh, okay. But as these renewables come back online and overtake the Brown power, we should see some drop, shouldn't we, eventually?
Well, yeah, I mean, so at that $70 is now around 40. And so that huge, or we're projecting it to be 40. So that is a huge drop in the market price benchmark, which reduces rates. When the prices go down, rates go down, but PCIA goes up.
Okay, well, that's a big consideration considering the budget in the future.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions? Oh, Shiva.
Yes, I thought slide 26, which is in the backup slide, is a good one for the group to look at for PCIA clarification. If the committee thinks it's worth the while, I would like Jason to go through slide 26, please.
Sure, no problem. This is Adrian, can we put slide 26 up, please?
That's really good.
So we put this in the appendix. This is something that you've probably seen before. We put it in, we've had it in all of our budget presentations for the last 2 or 3 years. But basically what it is it's a primer, and that's why we have it in the appendix, is that it kind of outlines the PCIA and operating headroom relationship. So the PCIA is how PG&E recovers the stranded costs. And as I believe Member Souza has put it, that there's, it's when PG&E has already purchased this load, several years in advance. And when customers depart, then that cost is stranded from PG&E's perspective. And so the CPUC has, with the industry, they've created the PCIA mechanism as a recovery for those stranded costs. And it's the mark-to-market value of their contracts on average to the current market prices. And so they look at the portfolio costs, like what did it cost to buy this energy? And then they subtract from that the portfolio value. What could they currently sell it at? So what did they buy it at? What's its current value? And that difference is the stranded cost if it's negative, or credit if it's positive. If it's credit, that's great. Our PCIA gets really small and can in fact go negative. But if it's the other way, then it gets bigger. And so when prices go down, the PCIA cost goes up. And so that stranded cost goes up. And so this slide kind of explains that relationship with a little more detail.
Well, great, thank you. That's a great slide. I'm going to have to digest that a little later. That said, I do have a question on page 21. The clean energy investments, I believe there was 10 million, 50% of that deferred revenues will be related to clean energy investments. Is this for this coming year?
Right. So in 2024, with a resolution, the board approved. The board approved setting 10.5 million aside to fund clean energy investments in 2027. And this would be local energy generation, so within our service territory, because traditionally funding projects within our service territory is at a premium instead of getting, energy projects outside of our service territory. So this was a way to incentivize us to partner to build resources within our service territory. And that generation is expected to come online in 27, and we will be and we don't know exactly when yet, but we'll be recognizing, we've recognized half, we're planning to recognize half in this fiscal year, because it will be January through June of 27 for that fiscal year. And then we'll recognize the other half in the next fiscal year.
Okay, great. Oh, it looks like Catherine. Go ahead.
Yeah. Again, more generally, since AVA is a nonprofit joint powers authority, is there a governance principle that justifies holding ratepayer money in reserves rather than returning it via programs or credits? And the context is kind of secondarily is there recommendations for this budget a fresh analysis, or is it more of a continuation of the previous December 2025 board vote? Because in last December, my understanding from the minutes is that the board adopted a substitute motion that reallocated $13 million from the CARE and FARA on bill credits. It would give money back to the people, reversing their September surplus allocation and the Community Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to do that, and that they actually put it back into the rate stabilization funds. And there's a tension between keeping rates stable, making the budget balanced, and also offering grants to the community. And there's kind of this little bit of like accounting stuff I don't quite get around, like, how do you make the numbers balance versus is it really a surplus or not? So I want to dig into more about the governance principles and like where the recommendations are coming from. Is it a former analysis from last December? Is it something new? Want to know more about those? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you're really hitting the heart of the beast. Is there, I'll have to get back to you. I can look up to see if there is exact specific statute for that question, but there is flexibility, I know, within the operational policy, in that, we should, we don't now, naturally we don't have to, but we should hold money in reserves, because that improves our credibility with counterparties. In particular, we get, we have a credit rating of A stable, because we have strong financial reserve management, and having that credit rating benefits AVA and thus benefits the ratepayers in a number of ways. We don't have to post cash collateral, number one, so that keeps our costs of our costs down and allows us to generate interest on that cash rather than externally posting it. It also allows us to have a credit facility by which we can issue letter of credit to counterparties to facilitate and actually get better market prices, which also benefit ratepayers. So there is like a lot of it's indirect benefit that the ratepayers get for us holding reserves. It does also give us stability into weather years like this year, where we're anticipating 250 million drawdown. And so that having that reserve ability can keeps us stable and keeps us able to continue to provide quality energy at what discount we can provide to our ratepayers. Now, we do have board approved reserve policies that have been vetted, that have been brought forth through public forums and have been approved by recommendation or by majority votes from our board. And that gives us, that's how we've set up our reserve fund so that we can have the cash stability to weather large cash drawdowns. And that also establishes our rate stabilization fund, which allows us to weather balance sheet or income statement drawdowns. Which
Thank you.
which can affect our credit rating if we're not managing that accordingly.
Jason, if I may, I'll just also point to the updated financial reserve policy that was updated and approved on January 20th, 2021. That outlines the policy, which requires has a target percentage of 50% for reserves. So you can find that under key documents on the AVA and Community Energy website.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Are there any further questions? I'd like to ask Adrian for some help here. I'd like to make a recommendation, a formal recommendation to the board to the tune of that due to the improved reserves or projections, I'm sorry, the improved projections in the budget.
Chairwoman Souza, I think we need to take public comment before there's a recommendation.
Okay, I really wanted to ask the question first, if this can be done. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll take public comment at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you please provide your name and recognize for 3 minutes?
Hello, my name is Jenna, and as you're all aware, AVA Community Energy's draft budget for the 2026 to 2027 fiscal year does not allocate any new funding to the Local Development Fund, which is AVA's primary vehicle for investing in community resilience, local clean energy, workforce development, building electrification incentives, and direct support for vulnerable communities. I am asking you all to listen to the community and recognize that there is a need to invest in local communities and ensure tangible benefits. During the previous executive committee meeting, the public provided many comments in support of funding the LDF. The response given was overall dismissive of these comments, and the board's main justification of the upcoming budget was that there is still money remaining in the fund. However, without new funding for the LDF, the remaining balance can only support existing commitments for a short time, essentially eliminating its long-term sustainability. With the current fund balance at $83.6 million and $69.4 million of it already earmarked, that leaves $14.2 million for new and future local development programs. I want to ask the CAC to make a recommendation to the board to allocate a meaningful contribution to the LDF for the 26 to 27 fiscal year. As it is, many of AVA's customer programs are not completely accessible to a portion of the community members within AVA's service territory. For example, community members cannot partake in the benefits of AVA's smart home charging program unless they can afford an electric vehicle in the first place. Another example is AVA's bike electric customer program, which can be inaccessible to certain community members if they cannot afford an e-bike even with a rebate. I would like to remind the CAC that the communities you represent require meaningful and thoughtful engagement for them to benefit from the local development programs. In order to truly show up for the community, AVA must embody equity priorities from start to finish through participatory budgeting, community grant making, and impact-focused implementation of community programs so that low-income and historically disinvested communities and customers can directly benefit from the local development funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Avi. I'm a member of the People's Clean Power Alliance, and I just want to uplift Jenna's comments. So I'd like to advocate for any money that is freed up from like balancing the budget to prioritize local development as like one of top priorities. Because if the $0 line item stays, it would set a concerning precedent. the energy, and then also in the long term, the energy market, it may stay volatile. And so AVA, I don't think should be solely depending on surplus revenue to fund local development, since they're like, it's completely separate funds. So because the CAC's role is to guide the board's decision on local development, I have a few asks. So first, the CAC should advocate to the board to contribute to the local development fund from the net revenue, whether it's like now or in like November. Second, I think we should advocate for grants that facilitate the expansion of distributed energy resources among like marginalized communities. That means like supporting more mid-sized grants for smaller community organizations, not only for marketing, but also battery installments, resilience hubs, education and training, and multilingual communication. Also balcony and rooftop solar, operating support, training, like have like more flexibility. Because as far as I know, AVA supports 300K grants that are more marketing focused and mostly for larger organizations. Flexible mid-sized grants that are 50 to 100K can be distributed to a larger number of smaller organizations are more fitting for their needs. In the near future, thirdly, in the near future, the CAC and like or the board can research and brainstorm more creative financing methods to support the local development fund, especially in like more volatile like times like this with like an energy crisis, such as like social impact bonds and a green revolving fund, and propose them to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Devar, recognized for 3 minutes.
Jessica Guadalupe Tovar with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. I just wanted to uplift and just to acknowledge that zero funds is being allocated this year to the local development. And to me, that is a bad precedent. But context is everything. The devil's always in the details. I haven't heard this discussed today that actually the board voted in December to remove $10 million from the local development business plan fund because they wanted to address their deficit. And to see that not only is no money being allocated this year, there's no attempt to actually replace the money that was taken. So I do see that as insult to injury. One of the persons that I work with, I get a lot of volunteers and young people that reach out to me that want to do research. And this young man, Kevin Bailey, said, zero is a statement in itself. And that really resonated with me. I don't think I don't see anything else really being reduced. As a matter of fact, marketing line items are going up. We learned that at the executive committee. So it actually makes the zero worse, to be very honest. In addition to that, just noting, I appreciate that there is money from the previous years, but the only reason why there is money there is because every year we advocated and we urged the board to add into that fund. And so we're here again. I do know that this agency could do a whole lot better. Even if the amount was lower than what has been given traditionally, that would be better than zero. The other thing I want to uplift, it was spoken about today about grants programs, and I think the grants program is a good example. You know, we've been working on a resilience hub program, and it's great that this agency is offering incentives for those who have solar and battery storage, but there are so many grassroots organizations that are not going to have that kind of infrastructure. And so we should be looking at ways to support them. And a lot of what folks are asking for is capacity grants. $50,000 for a year to pay staff to continue doing the operations of feeding people and clothing people is very important. And when crisis hits, like it happened in LA with the huge wildfires, people lost everything. People I knew lost everything. And being able to go to their church to just get clothes and, you know, soap and a shower was like really transformative at a time where, you know, there's so much pain and grief happening. And so I just want to ask you to urge the board to do more. Clean power to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Sun, you're recognized for 3 minutes. Alice Sung, you recognize for 3 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Alice Sung, Green Bank Associates, um, uh, community energy member, and I am here to uplift the last 2 or 3 speakers speaking in support of local clean energy and the People's Clean Energy Clean Power Alliance. There are a couple of things that maybe have been stressed, and I'd like to also emphasize is that, which wasn't in the presentation, which Jessica mentioned, is the removal of the $10 million from the local development funding at the end of last year, 2025. And I would just like to add that I think that there was a motion about to be made from one of the advisory committee members to restoring at least that $10 million that was taken away. And in light of a couple of things that were mentioned by the consultants in this presentation tonight, one was the fact that the expected deficit, for which was one of the primary reasons the $10 million was taken away, was not, has not been brought to bear. The second is that it looked like the budgets actually are in good shape, and there is a better outlook for the PCIA charges. And thirdly, I'd like to mention that it looked like and I can't remember what slide number it was, that the a bonus to the non-operating revenues was almost a doubling, it seemed, of the interest in the, around, $10 million maybe. I'm looking to see if this advisory committee could look through those line items and find a way to identify, given the new outlook that has just been presented, to restore that $10 million back into the local development fund for all of the reasons that have been cited. And we look to you, the Community Advisory Committee, to represent the voice of the local community. And I also urge you to maybe take a look back at the C7 section of the original local development business plan, which states all of the purposes of Ava Community Energy to support local clean energy and our local communities and nonprofits. So I encourage you to look at restoring that $10 million. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jana, and Avi and Jessica and Alice for staying with us and making your voice known. We definitely want to hear from you and take your wisdom seriously and bring that forward. That said, are there any further questions, comments from the public?
There are no hands raised in the room or in the attendee area.
Okay, at this point, we have another question for Rachel. Go ahead.
So I'm wondering if staff can provide some more information at this time to the CAC regarding, considering that there's new members here, regarding that vote in December about the 10 million that was removed from the LDVP to balance the budget.
Is there a specific question that I can answer?
Can you describe what the vote was and
Sure.
if there
Okay.
were any kind of caveats to it?
Yeah. So in December, we were projecting that calendar year 2026, because of the PCIA reform initiated for 2025 track 1 items, which is the resource adequacy, we were projecting a $250 million drawdown. We are still still seeing cash draw down of around 150 to 200 million. But the balance was to set the mid-year budget. We were looking at a very large deficit. The board took specific action to try to get us such that we wouldn't have a negative actuals. And one of the decisions made was that retraction of it was unearmarked, unallocated monies. That was that 10 million. Now, in terms of what the future plan was, there wasn't anything prescriptive in the resolution in terms of any restorative measures, but the tenor, I believe, was to wait and see. And what we're seeing this year is that those actions actually did a very good job and actually made us positive. And when we come in November from after the audit to see what that actual settled amount of net revenues is, then there will be a discussion then on I think back on that matter for sure.
So you're talking about this coming November
Correct.
discussion. So one of my questions then was, is there kind of traditionally like a mid-year budget review? Would that essentially be part of that?
So the mid-year budget review will probably come after that for the current fiscal year, or sorry, for this next fiscal year.
Right.
Generally, we bring the mid-year review in sometime between December and February, depending upon urgencies. But we'll be bringing the audited results from the current fiscal year in November, and there will be, I imagine we will start that discussion with the board, if not September, then definitely by October, so that it's not just a big, so here you go, here's your options. And we'll be working with the board to get their input on what to do with any surplus.
So can I make a comment on that? When
Please.
we voted on the last year's budget and 10 million was removed, there was something like 90 million left or 80 million left in the budget, right? I mean, there was the remaining amount that shows up in the budget. So now.
Adrian, sorry. Adrian, can you please bring up the deck and go to slide? Just so that we can all reference it, because I do want to hear your question. Slide 3. So I think this will speak to what you're saying. So,
Okay.
Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt.
No, you didn't. But so I just feel like because I was voted on the last time, it wasn't that we were voting on zero. I mean, we weren't presented a budget that had nothing. We were presented a budget that was reducing in the spirit of protecting Ava and keeping moving forward. But now we have this Gas B 62 funds that's helping to backfill. Can that Gas B funds be used to backfill local business development? So we could at least put back in what we took out, the 10 million.
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, so in looking at this slide, we had, when the budget was passed, we were also expecting to spend 35 million out of that GASB to balance last year's budget. So we were already starting last year's budget with a deficit of 35 million. When we got to December, it was projected even worse, right? We were looking at another 200 million that we were going to be negative. Lots of action was taken by the board, and then some fortuitous events at the CPUC were able to take us from that, which we then got to a break-even amount, from the board decisions to then get us to a positive. Now we're looking at a positive 80 million. So that's the historical situation. To answer your question of can we use RSF money? Well, that RSF money was deferred from the previous year. And those were revenues that were not recognized. But when we did set them aside into the rate stabilization fund to weather this, and this was determined in last November, so that we could weather this, this large drawdown that we were anticipating, where that rate stabilization money would have been used this year. But fortunately, circumstances have the headwinds have turned a bit. And so, yes, we do have that money, and yes, it is possible to recognize that money and then return it, to its intended local development allocation. That is entirely possible, and that would be a board decision.
I don't know if this is too soon, but I would like to make a motion that, well, so when we approved the budget last year, and I just want to say this because we're very supportive of AVA and we really want AVA to succeed. And so this is not a criticism, and everything changes, super dynamic. But I'd like to make a motion that we restore at least the 10 million and more, if we could, to the local business development fund to change that zero to something important. And I feel like, I guess I don't want to personalize it, but I feel like the CAC would not be doing its job if we did not defend local business development. So I would like to make a motion. I don't know if there's an amount of money. I don't know what the amount of money would be, but at least the 10 million minimum or more. Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the
This is the
budget,
hard part is to get the,
adding the local, the GASB 62 funds or the SR, what was it called? The other SRF?
The rate stabilization.
The rate
Yeah.
stabilization, one or the other, to restore at a minimum the $10 million. And if I could add to this, that when we're looking at budgets, we are a joint powers agency, and our purpose is renewable energy, and our purpose is to support the communities, so that we always take money out of something else, because we don't want to send that message that we're not supporting communities.
yes, I wanted to boil this down.
Please, because
And the motion, which is to use the funds from either in the GASB or from some other funding to restore the 10 million that was originally voted upon and approved at some point last year. And the recommendation is due to the commitment to the community that is under the JPA. That the reserves is the use of the reserves is based upon the improvements on the projections, so that so based on the projections, the improvement, getting the words all mixed up. Sorry, the improved projections. We'd like to request that the 10 million be restored. So is that the wording we'd like to use? Can somebody be the scribe here?
I've got a friendly amendment to update that with some more detail.
Please.
Yeah. So can you bring up slide 22, please? I just want to highlight that there's a tension between the accountants keeping the books balanced and keep a good credit rating to keep the rates low. And there's trade-offs that money spent in one area can't spend in another area. Can't spend it twice. I'm also concerned about the $10 million removal, and the deficit didn't really materialize in full, and wanted to have a kind of a three-part motion to go over this. So first, I want to note that on this slide, these are still projections, but there's a projection up and to the right of that Ava's looking at increased net revenue over time. So if we're looking at a good future, now is a good time to act to take action on restoring what was taken away last December. So I move that the committee recommend board approval of the budget contingent upon staff bringing back to the June board meeting this month, one, a community organization capacity grant tier at 50K per grant with at least 20 grants per year. That's $1 million a year, not very much money, but at least 20 grants is something. And secondly, a draft surplus allocation policy framework that establishes the rate stabilization fund balance threshold that triggers different allocations between reserves. It's like giving us a policy around how do you put the money from one bucket to another. And then how you
Catherine,
allocate.
say that again.
So item 2, a draft surplus allocation policy framework establishing rate stabilization fund balance thresholds that trigger different allocations between reserves, local development, customer bill relief, because things have been moved around a lot. And third part, a scenario that's quantified showing how much operating headroom and local development capacity would be available if the California Court of Appeals reverses the CPUC decision 2506-049 on appeal. So kind of PCIA related stuff. So it's kind of 3 pieces here around grants, getting this policy framework around how we decide to move the money around, and then understanding more about the scenarios with the PCIA. Does that make sense?
It does. It's just you went really fast. We couldn't write it.
I have it written down here.
Okay,
Yeah.
please email it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just a little concerned that we're making a lot of movement here.
Okay.
We want to get to the point, and I
And
think
we don't want to tell the board what to do.
Sure.
we can still talk about it.
Well, so I want to understand, so your recommendation, Catherine, is to not necessarily restore the 10 million now, but come up with a framework to do so, but then to put 1 million into local grants now? Is that what you're
So we
recommending?
could also change the number to make it 10 million. You want to recommend, like the recommendation number should be something greater than 0. And maybe it's 10 million, maybe it's 1, whatever the number should be. But I think there's, it's good to have a framework for the future so that we don't run the same problem a year from now of like, why did they get money taken away? So like, it would be good to, maybe this is a second motion that we have like 2 motions. Number 1 is get the money back. Number 2 is get a policy. And third motion could be, let's see what the PCAA does. Maybe it's 3 different things.
So wait and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can vote separately on them then.
The third one I didn't understand.
So to understand like the scenario around
The first one's a 10 million. The second one is a rate, is a policy around how the money is used, rate stabilization, which it may be you already wanted on. And then, but the third one that was.
yeah, around, so there's still some uncertainty around the PCIA. And right now, Cal CCA is appealing some of the PG&E nonsense. So understanding more like what are the scenarios in which we might have more or less money so that we can have better information around, is there really room or maybe there's not any room, depending on what PG&E Antics, does.
My comment on that one is that I think Jason and the legislative team are really good at informing us that along
Cool.
the way.
Okay.
You don't know this, but they do inform us.
Cool.
But the first 2, I think we should do 2 motions.
Yeah, so maybe do 2 motions. I mean, I can amend my motion to say we want to have 2 motions. Motion number 1, get the 10 million back. Motion number 2 is get us a policy.
Good. I like
That
that.
sounds good.
Can I make or maybe
Yes,
pose a
please
thought or
do.
make a suggestion? So I want to go back to my questions about, this mid-year review, and Jason, talked about this audit in November that would help us better understand, how much funding was it specifically in relation to the PCIA, or was it more general?
It's net revenues for
Net
the
revenue.
current fiscal year.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we would know more generally the net revenues for the fiscal year. And so perhaps there's some focus on a smaller amount that we recommend be set aside specifically for local grant programs now, and then evaluate recommend that when that audit happens in November, that there's a discussion about the budget and revenues at that time, and whether additional funds can go back into the LDPP for other types of programming that have been called out specifically by the advocates.
Rachel, one of the things that comes to mind as you say this is that we are, as I understand, Ava is undergoing a local business development planning process, correct?
Yes.
So if we limit the amount that gets allocated now, they may not have the flexibility in during the process. So maybe just to say a general like 10 million and then let that process take its.
Yep.
And I believe, Katie, in November, you will be informing us this, what Rachel's asking, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
changes
typical
and-
to present those updates to the CAC as well, and I can work with you and Chair Souza. Make that happen.
Is that what you were talking about? That doesn't sound like it meets your needs.
Well, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to think about how are we balancing this? Because I'm not, we're talking about recommending the 10 million be restored. I'm still unclear as to where that would come from. And if we know, that there's going to be this evaluation of the budget, this audit in November to understand where the reserves are at, then we know at that point, if there's more money to work with, we can be recommending that there's a concerted, effort or a focused discussion around how additional revenues are used to support the LDBP at that point in time. So we're putting like a pin in the,
Yeah, I actually think that we should be asking for 14.2 million.
Okay, go ahead.
And the reason is because originally the Gas B fund was going to fund 32 million and now is going to maybe my numbers are wrong, but 18 million. What's a million or two here? It's a lot, but at the same time, where is that money coming from? There was a fund, there is a fund, and our projections have improved greatly. And I do believe that either we use a number based on the Gas B fund that was originally going to be used for these purposes, and then reduced because our outlook improved, or we go with the 10 million. And I think that should be the discussion at this point.
So can we say both? Can we say 10 million or more based on what the Gas B fund is available? I mean, I kind of don't like telling the board they know more details about the budget, Jason. I don't like picking a number, but 10 million is a number that it's been
It's an
mentioned.
understandable number, and if we pick something different, I think that there will be a whole lot of discussion about it. I think the point should be made that that money should be returned
Restored, yeah.
to restore it into the budget, and that
That seems legitimate.
we have two action items. The first being restore the 10 million for community, local community. And the second being to create a policy to ensure that there is local community money considered in the budget every year. So that those are the two. We would have to have 2 votes. Is that correct? Avery?
I will make a motion that we restore the 10 million in the local business development budget that was removed.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second.
And with regards to the policy to ensure that there is local clean energy, is that a part of the original motion, or do you want to make that a second motion?
That would be a
separate.
second, yeah, a second recommendation.
Would it be that we approve the budget contingent on number 1 and then number 2 is a second motion?
Okay, yes, I think you're right.
So let
I
me
think-
revise my motion that we approve the budget contingent on restoring 10 million to the local business development.
Okay. So I have a motion from Bakassoon to approve the budget and restore $10 million.
Contingent on.
Contingent on. My apologies. Can you repeat your motion?
Contingent on restoration of the $10 million, which was removed last December.
Yeah,
Removed from
based
the
on the
local
fact that the reliance on the Gas B
business. Rate stay, is it?
yeah, it's not rate stable, it's a Gas B fund.
Okay.
the GASP fund has been reduced by 14.2 million.
Okay. And that's your motion? Is there a second? for-
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Pierce? Okay. And there is we should vote on that motion and then consider
Yes, please.
Yes.
a second motion? Okay. And no need for public comment there. Great, so let's just go ahead. I will do a roll call vote. Member Pierce?
Yes.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Member Edwards?
Yes.
Member Swaminathan?
Yes.
Member Lockman?
Yes.
Member DeFranco?
Yes.
Member Harper?
Yes.
Member Raj?
Yes.
Member Roberts?
Yes.
Vice Chair Buckleson?
Yes.
Chair Souza?
Yes,
Motion is approved
unanimously.
unanimously. Thank you.
I'll get through the night.
Great.
Okay, so do we want to create the verbiage for the second?
Yeah, I was thinking on the lines of the draft surplus allocation policy framework, so giving a guidelines essentially that gives specific thresholds, whether it's RSF or whatever the money's coming from, that triggers a different allocation between reserves, local development, and customer bill relief. Because the December thing the board did was around removing Kara and FARA bill reductions, so people could have got $80 back per ratepayer. So having some sort of policy framework that gives guidelines and some sort of numbers on and ballpark around when does money go to rate stabilization, which is important, but also when money can go to local development and customer bill relief, and how do we decide that if maybe there's some sort of policy draft. So I like to move that a policy framework be created as a draft or discussion at a future meeting that we can go over and talk about how we decide.
Allocation of money between.
Yeah, between those buckets.
Can I ask a question? So is the policy framework that we're recommending something that we're asking staff to develop or asking the board to develop? We're talking about developing within the CAC as an item that we would recommend directly to.
I would recommend staff
board?
develop this. And it's more work for them, but they are the experts.
Just wanna
Right,
get
and it might help them in the future as well.
Yeah.
With unallocated funds and to have some guidance with that. Do we have a second? Or do you have the
I'll
verbiage
second.
yet?
I'm wondering if maybe we want to put a timeline on that?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I think, staff would obviously have to think about allocation of resources. But if there is something in place or something in development when the audit happens in November and there's revenues, that would help aid discussion.
Yeah, so maybe by October, or no, is that too late? I know not gonna happen by Wednesday, but so.
I personally am uncomfortable assigning staff. I like to ask the board to do that job because they don't work for us. They work for the board.
Right.
But I agree with the concept.
Yeah, I was
So
thinking more just, if there's a point at which this makes sense to have in place, so is it before the next budget or, prior to the next budget cycle or something, so there's some context either before the mid-year review or before the next budget cycle.
I see, okay.
Well, I mean, I think if the staff is fighting, for balcony solar or the PCIA, I'd rather them use their time to do that than this policy. So, I mean, we want it done and we just I think we can keep reminding them and put that on our agenda.
Okay.
Agendize it or
We
even
can
do an ad
ask for an
hoc.
update on it.
And that can be an agenda item for the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So no deadline, but agendized for the future.
We just have to remember to keep.
How are we doing?
So I have a motion from Member Beers and a second from Valkasoon, from Vice Chair Valkasoon. And so
Can you read it? Do you
My
have-
apologies. Can you please?
Yeah,
restate your motion?
so I'd like to recommend a draft surplus allocation policy framework establishing dollar amount thresholds that trigger different allocations or recommendations for allocations between these three buckets: reserves, local development, and customer bill relief.
And what were the three again?
Reserves, reserve fund, rate stabilization fund, whatever you want to call it, local development, and customer bill relief, the Karen Farah type, or in general bill relief. So just say bill relief, that's the general one.
Can I just ask a question about that? As I'm recalling, when there was relief for the Care Farah people, that was not like a budget thing, was it?
Yeah, it was. And it was decided upon. We haven't discussed that in this meeting. So we could open that.
I'm just concerned when you give people three choices like that you can say, well, do this one.
Or you could
not
just
that
say
one,
like
or
a draft framework that establishes guidelines for allocations of revenue, maybe more general.
Yeah.
Modify my motion.
that would
towards
be-
local business development.
Yeah.
So do we have a second?
Do we need the language repeated or?
Can I do it?
Please.
Yeah, so I'd like to move that we create a draft surplus allocation policy framework that gives guidelines for how to allocate net revenue between local development funds and other sources.
Okay.
Should have had this hand.
We have a question from member Shiva.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. There is already a methodology which the staff adopts at the end of each year when the audits are in. I'm going to ask Jason, there are a number of expenses or number of allocations they make. Do you think it should be an open-ended resolution saying a policy framework to allocate excess funds, or should we specify which buckets it should go into?
That's a really good question. Historically, the answer is that when we are projecting net revenues, when budget is passed, we do include in the policy what we call a waterfall allocation, like how do the net revenues flow into the different buckets. That does not have an explicit rubric prescription, but there is general what we take into account when those are made as general temperament of our financial position in terms of what should go to reserves, what should go to rate stabilization, and then what would be available for other allocations. Historically, we have done returns to customers when we are projecting net revenues. This last budget, as you know, we were projecting break even and actually using rate stabilization funds to get to break even. And we're projecting that again with this next budget. So there is no waterfall policy being recommended at this time. But as you see, we are now projecting net revenues positive for the current fiscal year. So in November, when we know what that exact amount is, there will be a decision to be made. If you are looking for something that's just a more general framework for future budgets, when there is net revenue as a framework, then from my position, I would argue that the most important first step is to have working capital such that we don't have to dip into reserves. Then following that would be rate stabilization money to ensure that our budgets stay balanced. Then following that would be reserve funds to ensure that as a final backstop, we don't have to use credit. And then following that, then I would personally choose local development to be funded, and then after that, customer credits. But those last two are kind of my personal preference, where I think the first three are really more operational preferences. But again, you know, I'm not the one making these decisions and or making the recommendations. But from please go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
probably
so it
rambling
seems
now.
like it seems like you already articulated a policy framework. Is that what we're looking for?
There's nothing in print that prescribes that exactly, but that is operational prudence. That is financial prudence.
Okay, so well, thank you, Jason, for bearing your heart and at the same time
Sure.
your job.
Yeah.
Shiva,
Well,
good question, Shiva. That was a good question from Shiva.
yeah.
So could we say something like, after following standard operating fiscal procedures, we would want to ensure that local business development and care thereof. I mean, I guess we want to make sure.
Are you looking?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I am looking. For
You're
that.
looking to me to answer that question. Okay, good. Then I would say if you wanted something that would be robust and has the possibility of getting any traction, I would say, you know, put something forth that says that some percentage of net revenues be allocated to local development. Like I think that's very clean. That does give some liberty there for the board to choose what percentage that is, but it also makes it a consistent policy process. That would be my recommendation to you as a committee.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
That was very clean. Like,
And I do think it would help staff in the
Yes.
future.
Yeah.
Okay.
So revised motion number 14 is to recommend that some percent of net revenue be allocated to local development funds and let staff or the board, we need to pick who to pick that number.
yeah, I mean, the board would. anyway.
Yeah, somebody picks a number.
Develop
Yeah.
a policy.
Develop a policy to recommend the percentage of net revenues going to local development funds.
Well, second.
It could also say something like consistent with the health of the organization.
My apologies. Who's the second, please?
DeFranco.
DeFranco.
I have an observation before we vote. That will make the local development fund very volatile, right? Because the net revenue is very volatile.
Well, this is based on a net positive.
Positive.
Right,
Yeah,
net-
it's
but
not-
net positive is also very volatile.
Right.
So I think we need to make sure that there is a minimum amount irrespective of what the net revenue is, and then a portion thereafter.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
we
that's
say, and
right.
it cannot
Okay.
be
Is that a
negative.
friendly amendment?
Yeah.
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 Want to
My
revise it,
apologies.
Catherine?
You want to pick a floor, Swami Nathan?
No, I don't want to.
Can,
Yes.
can you please repeat your
Friendly amendment.
friendly amendment, please?
I don't know what the
I
fixed
think
dollar
it was
amount.
based
It's
on
not near
some
zero.
percentage of net positive that we implement a policy. Is that right?
So there's always something in there.
Right, but there also has to be a minimum of X million dollars per year.
Are we talking specifics with the millions?
I mean, shouldn't the board just to say, we say something like that's determined by the board, but it has to be a positive number or something? I mean, there has to be something to go into local business development. We don't want it to be zero again, I guess is what we're saying.
Right,
Set a minimum allocation in a dollar amount plus some percentage of net revenues.
That's good.
right.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I had in mind.
A base plus a bonus.
That's what she said.
Yeah, like you said.
What she said.
Can you get that, Adrian? What she said?
Yeah, so to recap, I'll move that we have a minimum dollar amount for local development plus some percentage of net revenues for local development
Every year,
every year. Yeah.
every year.
Thank you.
Ross as a person developing the budget and spending the money. Is Ross there? JP?
JP just left.
He left.
Okay, so he has to spend the money.
JP, don't leave.
I'm sure his team will.
All right. I
So
second that motion.
Okay, well, we already have a second. You can third it.
Liz, do I have to re-second since we adjusted it? I'll re-second.
You accept the friendly
I
amendment?
accept the friendly amendment, yes.
Great, thank you. And Member Pierce, the original motion maker for this?
Yeah, I
Okay,
just
yeah.
recapped it. I mean, they had the minimum dollar amount plus the percent
Yes.
as the updated version
And
every
you
year.
And you have that and you can give him that verbiage for.
I can write
to-
it down, yeah, and
Yes,
email it, yeah,
please.
so.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
While we take the vote.
Great. And so
Otherwise
we're
we'll
ready.
lose it.
So I have a motion, I have the second, and we're ready for the vote?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I move that we have a minimum dollar amount for local development plus a percent of net revenue when we have net revenue. I guess is that the caveat? We have to have net revenue. Okay.
Mm.
And that this should be a yearly allocation. Yeah.
And the
Look for
limit
local
on the
development.
floor?
Hmm?
The floor,
That the floor should be TBD.
Some percentage, so it's not zero.
is also, okay, great. Thank you. Ready for vote?
Yes, please.
Great, thank you. Member Pierce?
Yes.
Member Riley?
Yes.
Member Edmonds?
Yes.
Member Swaminathan?
Yes.
Member Lakshman?
Yes.
Member DeFranco?
Yes.
Member Harper?
Yes.
Member Raj?
Yes.
Member Roberts?
Yes.
Vice Chair Buckson?
Yes.
Chair Susan?
Yes,
Passes unanimously.
unanimous. All right, I think 5 minutes. You want to take 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute break. That was long.
Almost
2.5 hours.
Oof.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, so we're coming back at 45, right?
8:45.
Okay, due to the time, and I think it was a very productive time, so I'm very happy. Hope everybody else is. We will reserve Rosenberg's Rules of Order for the next meeting. And have a little homework for everybody. If you don't have the copy that Adrian provided, please obtain one from him. I don't know if you have anything.
There is a box folder that I have circulated in a prior email.
Right.
I will recirculate that, but also I should just say I'm creating a customized URL, so it should be easier to find, something very easy to remember. So we can always the CAC folder,
Thank you.
box.com CAC folder.
You are so dedicated.
So, and also that for public comment, it will, box.com, Ava public comment.
So please,
right.
So please do your homework, read through the Rosenberg's Rules of Order for the next meeting. And at this point, I'd like to bring forth, first of all, I have something. I'd like to ask Jim to come forward and come over here. All right, Jim. Jim has been involved in the CAC. He has wonderful ideas, wonderful connections. He's here today. He bought his own ticket to the Cal CCA, attended the sessions, took his hard-earned his time and very valuable time at that. And I'd like to present to you, Jim, a thank you from the Ava Community Advisory Committee to say thank you, and we will see more of you.
Yes. Well, yes, I do.
Just from hearing the discussion tonight, I missed the last CAC meeting, but hearing the discussion tonight, I feel like Ava's in good hands. And I want you to keep doing the good work.
That's huge. That is so significant for this man. He is a wealth of information. And Jim will probably keep his email out there and you can ask him questions that go above my head. That said, I'd like to go to item C7, which is CAC member and staff announcements, including request to place items on future Community Advisory Committee meeting agendas or agenda for next month. So does anybody have any comments or advice for future meetings?
I do.
You do, great.
There was a discussion about having a minimum amount of money allocated for small grants, both in public comment and in Catherine's original motion. So I believe you had mentioned that there's a time looking forward when we'd be able to bring that back into the fold. I'm not sure exactly when that would be, but I'd like to have that as a future agenda item.
Wow, that sounds like that you could chair a ad hoc committee for just that.
I'm sorry.
Would that be appropriate? Would you be willing to put together some meetings, have some discussions, and have a deliverable that eventually we could bring before the greater CAC and eventually the board? All right.
Sure.
Would anybody like to?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So the local business development plan that's in the works, do we know when that's going to come out?
Referring to the customer roadmap?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the customer program roadmap, that's still kind of being worked on internally, and there will be probably share outs and discussion with the CAC in the near future, but I'm not sure of the exact timeline.
Because
at this
that might
moment.
segue to what? To this?
Yeah, that might be two ad hocs.
Okay.
And I'd like to first ask if we could have some volunteers to join Blake, who is stepped forward very courageously, might I add, to start with these small grants for the community and help shape that policy. Well, I can come.
One question too, are these ad hoc community or committees just for CAC members, or can we invite other
You can
community
invite
members?
others, yes. We can't have, go ahead, Amy.
As long, like I said, as long as you are under quorum, so less than 7 members, up to 6 members in an ad hoc,
In that case,
including alternates.
and an alternate, yeah, and that would mean Charles. Charles, would you like to join an ad hoc? I am asking you.
Christopher.
Oh, Christopher.
Did I
Yes, I would.
Thank you, and apologies for getting your name wrong.
Would Jessica like to join?
Oh, I wanted to come. An announcement.
An announcement. Okay. Well, let's get through this ad hoc thing. And so we'll have some, I'll call you about that.
Okay.
Or maybe Adrian can. Can I call him about the ad hoc?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. As long as there's no
Yes.
breaking the point. Okay. And another,
But
we would,
I should say that we are in the staff announcements period, so we
Right.
probably should not have, we should probably agendize a discussion about
ad hocs.
ad hoc.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that next week. That would be another new agenda item. Pardon?
No one else?
No announcements? Okay, so at this point, we would like to have Jessica come up and give your announcement.
Real quick, we're gonna have a Resilience Hub workshop in South Hayward on June 25th. And it is hosted by various religious institutions that do Resilience Hub work. It will be at Glad Tidings in South Hayward. I did forward the details to Adrian to forward to you, so you are invited. If you know any resilience hubs in your community, nonprofit organizations, health centers, religious institutions that are serving the community, we will be holding a workshop. It's funded by AVA. It's hosted by various organizations, including Local Clean Energy Alliance and Emerald Cities Collaborative. And also sponsored by City of Hayward. So I hope you guys can join us. It's coming up pretty soon, June 25th.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
I should just say that I did receive Jessica Barr's letter. It will be placed in the public comment folder. And I recommend once I have the customized URL or even the URL that we have now, it should be favorited. And so that, because I will add public comment to there, especially during meetings and when things are busy, I might need to post to that folder and, and I might be too busy to inform everyone. So you should have that public comment folder ready, available, and open, because all public comment will just be pushed there. For example, I get public comment in Google Forms during the meeting, and I will just place it in that folder. So you should have that folder available, open, and you can see when public comment is placed in there. So I don't need to interrupt the meeting or kind of like divert from other things that I'm doing.
Right. Otherwise, we see a lot of emails from you, yes.
Well, I mean,
You'll
it's-
still do.
but
you'll still-
since a public comment is being sent to, yeah, it's kind of like, two separate actions during the meeting to email everyone and paste it in the folder. So, so I am placing all the public comment and any items in that folder. And I recommend that that members have that folder favorited, perhaps open during meetings so they could see as a new public comment comes in.
Can I just add that we had a conversation about like how to share information so we can all kind of learn together. And so Mickey, I put a comment in about what's it called? Balcony Solar. It's an article that I read and we were trying to figure out how the best way to not violate Brown Act. So to send it as a public comment to Adrian, then it would go into that folder and so we can all kind of, is that the same? Because we're still, it's public. Right.
Yes, we could do it that way. It could be public comment, absolutely. The other way that we could do it is to have it as, added in the CAC chair report, so it's a part of the agenda.
Okay.
But in the public comment folder, it'll live there, and anyone who visits the public comment folder would see that submission.
So it's.
So
Would
the
you
board
rather-
members can give public comment at their own meeting. I guess that would be the only question. I'm sure you can. I mean, well, you can give it to other bodies.
Oh, so it's not really,
Well, let me think about that.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
return an
I-
answer
next
to you.
time. Yeah.
Which do you think would be more visible to the public?
I mean,
This.
both
would it be to-
both are available either on the
Okay.
the public meetings page or on the public comment folder. I think that if we just if everyone's on the same page and we know where materials are going, I think that would just make it easier to find.
Very good, thank you. And so everybody look for that, two URLs, one for the Rosenbergs and the one that you should favorite regarding the public comments prior to the meeting. or during
and you
the
make a
meeting.
decision for the next time about what to do with that.
I'll respond to you
Okay,
after. I
cool.
just need to think about it.
All right, are there any further announcements?
Yes, I have one announcement. There is a meeting sponsored by a coalition, No Coal in Oakland on, sorry, Jessica, also the 25th in Berkeley at La Pena. And it is to inform the public of some federal funding that has gone towards coal operation in Oakland. And so this organization is fighting against that. It's in the evening.
at 12.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah, if you search No Coal in Oakland, you'll find their website with more information.
What time is it? 6 p.m.?
It's 7 p.m. to 8:30 at La Pena on June 25th.
Great, thank you, Blake. With that, no further comments or announcements. We will close this meeting. It is now 8:59.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Somebody thank Jason Bartlett. That's a long.
Was it too late for the Rosenberg?